Hello, welcome to the Pedestal Wife Society. My name is Braille. So I'm going to give everybody a moment to get into the live stream from Instagram to YouTube. I need someone to come over and just let me know that you can see and hear me before we go and get into this content today. So I'm going to give it a moment for everybody to get in here, get in the room. Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully everyone's day is going well. I think today is Wednesday. I'm gonna hold to that. Maybe someone let me know it's not Wednesday, but I think today's Wednesday. So happy Wednesday. So I'm just gonna wait for everyone to get in from Instagram to YouTube. Let me know if you can see and hear me, and then we're gonna jump into the content. Hey, Ink72. Hey, Abdullah Yama. Hello. Hello. I just need a pedal swipe or inner circle member to come over to YouTube. Let me know that you can see and hear me. And then we're going to have a great conversation today. We're going to talk about a woman must love herself. A man must love her better than himself. Daisy B, thank you. Thank you for letting me know that you can see me from Instagram and YouTube. Thank you, Ink72. I appreciate that. First of all love is love of self. And what does that mean? That means it is impossible for a woman to love herself any differently or love others any differently than she loves herself. The thing is, when, and also pause right there because I have something else I want to talk about. Later on in the stream, we're going to talk about Kiki Palmer. I can't get away from that piece of content. I can't get away with what's going on with her. So we're going to address that at the end. And then I'm going to give you the magic thing to inspire devotion in men. Okay, so that's going to be at the end. It's not going to be at the beginning because I have to set it up properly so you get where I'm coming from. A woman cannot love anyone differently than she loves herself. What it looks like. If a woman is very critical with herself, she is saying that she cannot be provided for, that she is not pretty, that she never is able to get anything the way that she wants. She's never ever successful. She doesn't like the skin that she's in. If a woman is very critical of herself, that is how she's going to love others. This means she will be critical of the person that she brings in. She may criticize how he loves her. She may criticize how he does something. She may criticize how he shows up for her. She may criticize because that is the way that she loves herself. She cannot do anything other than to love you like she loves herself. So a woman must love herself. A man must love her better than himself. So how do we get there? We have to start looking at how we're loving ourselves first. We do this in we do this in ways that come out and we're not aware of it. Let's say that we've been abandoned. We've been abandoned. A man, we had a baby with a guy. He abandoned us. He left us with that baby. Now, our love comes out in fear. We're fearful that he's going to leave. We're fearful that we're not going to make it or cut it as a single mom. We're fearful that we're not going to be able to get married. We're fearful because it comes out in little ways in the way that we love others. It comes out in ways that we don't notice the things that we're doing. We don't notice that we're loving other people like we love ourselves. It is impossible for a woman to love people differently than she loves herself. It is impossible for a woman to sometimes recognize these things without self awareness. So she doesn't realize that she's loving herself. The way she loves herself, she puts that off on others. That's how she loves other people. And if that is something you're like, what is she talking about? Let's go a little deeper. I want you to think about this. There was a woman, and this woman was raised by another woman. And in this woman's childhood, she was raised to exercise, to eat healthy. And if she didn't do that, sometimes she received punishment from her mother if she did not exercise and eat healthy. Now, when she had a baby herself, she thought to herself, I'm not going to do that in the way that my mom did that. I am not going to get on my daughter about her weight, her eating habits, her workouts. I'm not going to be harsh on her or give her any type of punishment. But the thing is, you cannot love yourself differently than you cannot love anyone differently than you love yourself. If she hasn't done any work, or she hasn't become self-aware about this, she will be critical of her own thing, and then she will pass this on to her daughter. People love themselves the way that they love their children, they love their person, and they love God. Think about it like this. When people say that they love God, do they not love them through Him through fear? Do they not love Him through of trauma? Do they not love Him through insecurity? Instead of them truly being able to trust, they don't even trust themselves. They cannot love God any differently than they love themselves. So if they're sitting around fearful, lacking trust, no self confidence, insecure, they're only going to pass that on to the people that they love. They're going to view love through that lens. And most of us are unaware that we're moving in such. Maybe you may be aware of it now because I'm bringing it up. Because I'm bringing it all together of how you're going to be inspired devotion in men. And not just inspired devotion in men, you would inspire devotion among people. You will have men propose and women require or ask for mentorship, because most people cannot, they have not done the inner work or the self-awareness to know and view how they're loving others. They're loving others only to the capacity that they love themselves. If they're highly critical, they're gonna, through that criticism, that's how they're gonna love others. If they are suffering from abandonment, that is how they're gonna love others. This is the reason why you see a spike of women talking about, he has to give me his GPS. I have to know where he's at all times. Something happened in the past and it is downloaded in within us, and we're operating from that instead of us being able to operate from that spiritual component of us that is true nothing but love. We tend to love, we can't do anything differently than to love that person how we love ourselves, and that is how it's going to come out every single time. And that is the reason why it's highly disappointing when it comes to this Kiki Palmer conversation that people are having. They don't understand, for every problem, there's a spiritual answer. For every problem, there's a spiritual answer. So even if she was to marry a billionaire, a trillionaire, a millionaire, it don't matter. There's still something where she is not able to love anyone differently than she loves herself. And she would still have some form of situation with any man that she's going to be connected with. The thing is, this is not something that we have conversation. It's not even going to be a popular conversation, because I think most people are waiting to the end, because you're going to have to wait to the end for me to give you the juicy bits. You're going to have to wait for me to give you the juicy bits on how to inspire devotion in men. You're going to have to wait to the end to learn how to get men to propose and drop on one knee to you, because you're going to have to realize that most women, most people, they cannot love themselves differently than they love. So if you're a person, if you're highly critical of yourself, that criticism is going to be put off on the person that you love. If you lack self-confidence, that lack of self-confidence is going to be put off on the person that you love. If you are needy and clingy, that is going to be put off on the person that you love, because we cannot love anyone differently than we love ourselves. All love is love of self. We will love the person that we're with, how we love ourselves. We will love God in the way that we love ourselves. We will love our children in the way that we love ourselves. That is the reason why, if you're highly critical of how you're doing things and how you're living your life, you're going to criticize your children. Even though you started out well, you want to love them, you want to give them an opportunity to be independent and get to know themselves and love themselves. But we can't help if we don't understand. We can't help the lack of self awareness. And see, this is not popular. A lot of times, what we're doing, we're continuing to repeat the same patterns over and over again. So we don't realize that all we're doing, we're only giving the capacity of love that we have, we're loving them through that capacity. That's what we have to offer them. That is what is available to them. If we don't treat ourselves well, we don't have that capacity to treat another person well. So since I don't want to keep looking back and forth, I'm definitely going to go ahead and break off Instagram so I can get into this, because this is a conversation that's much needed. I want to teach you how to inspire devotion in men. I want to teach you to the point where men drop on one knee and propose, or women come to you and want to be mentored because they see you having this great love. They see you having this great life, and they're like, "What is she doing?" But it starts with, and you have to become very self-aware and ask yourself, how do I love? Am I loving them through the way that I criticize myself? Am I loving them through my own lack of self-confidence? Am I loving them through my own insecurities? Am I loving them through my own trauma? And I don't mean pushing forward through trauma. I mean, are we looking through the lens of trauma and deciding to love someone in that way? If you're doing that, this is what's preventing you from being able to inspire devotion in anyone. It's not, I'm not teaching you just for men. I want you to have this effect and be magnetized to the point where other people want to know what you're doing because you're living this great life and you're experiencing this great love. But in order to do that, it does take self awareness, it does take inner work. And I'm going to give you the final piece that you're going to have to complete in order for you to be able to inspire devotion in men. Men will want to propose to you if you get this down pat. If you get what I give you at the end, while I'm finished setting the foundation of where we're going here, men will want to propose to you. They will see someone who's living differently, who is loving them and allowing them to be, and come in a way where that they can absolutely show up and love you. So I'm gonna go ahead and Instagram because it's so distracting, so I can get into the content. And I'm gonna finish up on YouTube. You already know the routine. If you want to be a part of this conversation, just click the link in the stories and it'll take you over to YouTube. And I'll see you all on the next one. Y'all have a good day. All right. So let's jump on in this and move everything out of the way. It is impossible for anyone to love someone differently than themselves. So if you are a woman who is full of insecurity, full of self doubt, full of trauma, and you haven't addressed that, what will happen is that you will try to love them through that, and it will come out in different ways. It may come out where you're so needy and clingy that you have to have a GPS on. It may come out where you don't trust him because you don't trust yourself. It may come out where you lack self-confidence and you don't try new things. It comes out in different ways because we cannot love anyone better than we love ourselves. We love our children to the same capacity. We love God to the same capacity. This is the reason why it's so hard to trust in and lean into God's understanding when we truly don't trust ourselves to make good decisions. If you walk around all day long with your ego constantly letting you know that you've made so many bad mistakes, that you've always got it wrong, it's never went right for you, how can you lean and love God in any other way than the way that you're loving yourself? It isn't possible without self-awareness and inner work. And hopefully this piece of content will help you to really think about, how do I love? Because if you want to inspire devotion, the true thing that you have to do is acceptance. But it's not acceptance by accepting anything that someone gives you or anything that they are or anything that they require. The acceptance comes from you accepting yourself. When you start looking at it as though my mistakes are my mistakes, they're in the past. My imperfections are a part of my beauty. I have every bit of right to want the best for myself, just like anybody else. It doesn't matter if I started out, you know, from coming back from a bad situation. When you come to a place of acceptance within yourself, then you're able to give love and inspire devotion within men. Men will propose to you, and women will ask for mentorship from you because they will see that you're so comfortable in your skin and you're so the life that you're living reflects all of that. They will want to know more. They'll run up to you, chase you down, say, what are you doing? I want some of that. Because it will take you getting to the level of acceptance, true acceptance, where you accept every dimple, every curve, every stretch mark, where you accept all your mistakes, where you accept all of your trauma, where you just accept that these are things that happen. It doesn't have to change the capacity of love that I have for others. Now I have the ability to give them acceptance also. Now I have the ability to look beyond their flaws instead of criticizing, because I'm constantly criticizing myself. Instead of being insecure, pouring insecurity into them. Instead of being a person who is dealing with their traumas and being supported and while they're dealing with theirs, I cannot help but to regurgitate and vomit all of my issues onto them. It is not possible for anyone to love someone differently than they love themselves. This is what it means to truly have self love. When you understand what true self love is, and you get to that state of acceptance, then you give other people grace and acceptance also, and they will flock to you because of that acceptance. We live in a world that's highly critical. Look at what happened to Kiki Palmer. Like the hypergamy and level up communities are tearing her apart, not realizing that has nothing to do. She could have married a millionaire, a trillionaire, a billionaire. It may not have ended the same, but there will still be some issues just because of the fact that there's still something that is she's working through. If you looked at her career and looked at what the things that she said on social media, you can tell that there's something off that she's still working through, that she hasn't got to the point of acceptance within herself. To me, when I look at her, I actually feel like she's dealing with a little bit of imposter syndrome. And see, that comes out differently. That comes out in I'm going to seek the average, even though she's not an average woman. I'm going to seek average experiences, even though she's having above average experiences. So she seeks that, which she isn't anymore. And this is what's going on. It's not just about the money. Yes, she could have married someone who's wealthy and she possibly wouldn't have had such pushback. But looking at her overall and just not looking at that one situation, looking at overall of her commentary, remembering the thing with Steve, going back and just looking at overall her entire career, there's always been something a little off. And I think there's something that acceptance is missing. And not having acceptance, you'll see things that are out of your realm. You'll literally run after those things, even though you should be seeking above average experiences. You should want to desire above average experiences. But I think that's also part of her brand is to be the average girl. And she's no longer the average girl. And so when we don't understand what's truly going on, we tend to get caught up in the patterns and we make the same mistakes over and over and over. And since we can't love someone any differently than we love ourselves, and that goes across the board, that goes for your children. So this is the reason why, for myself personally, I knew I had to deal with my ish because I did not want to be in fear. Like I really had a deep fear in me. When I was young, I watched my cousin get hit by a car and he died. And I had a certain level of fear about not wanting my kids to have experiences, not wanting them to go and live life. I wanted to keep them under my curtail because I felt like that if I kept my eyes on them, nothing could happen to them. But if loving them through my fear wouldn't have been healthy, it would have stopped them from becoming independent and self-sufficient in adults. So I had to deal with that and realize I had to stop trying to love them through fear. I had to allow them to learn and allow them to fall, and allow them to hurt themselves, and allow them to visit and have friends and have a social life. It took a lot of inner work because that really changed me. It really affected how I love people because then it was a set of fear that came over me where I was always worried about losing people, about seeing losing them in a traumatic and dramatic fashion also. And then it also put in me that, hey, the fear of something may happen to you. You may not be able to raise your kids. You may not, because it happened. I already had like one child when that happened. So these things, our past, our present, they affect us and they affect how we love people and how we bring people in. And we tend to not be self-aware of how we're doing it. And it affects how we love ourselves. Anything that affects how you love yourself will affect how you love others. It will affect how you're able to love people because you can't love them differently than you love yourself. If you are suffering, your love can be overbearing and hard to deal with and hard to handle because you're suffering. So you're trying to love people through that suffering. Maybe you have a heavy dose of fear with you, like I did. Having that thing happen right in front of my eyes, it changed the fears that I had. And I had to work through them so that I didn't love my sons and my daughter so much and put so much fear in them where it stagnated their lives. Because that's what we do when we don't deal with our issues. We don't become self-aware. And most women want men to be in devotion to them. You want men to fall at your feet, propose to you, give you the world. But if you're loving them through your fear or your abandonment or your lack of self confidence or your insecurities, these things will hinder that love. He may see that your love is not worth falling on one knee and getting proposing to you. He may see your love is not worth, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. He can't handle that. And most people can't. That's the reason why most people leave when they realize that this person is trying to they love me. And I'm not doubting it that he doesn't love you or she doesn't love you. I am doubting that when it comes down to you, how are you loving yourself? It always goes back to you. It doesn't, it's not about him, it's not about her, it's not about family. It's about how do you love yourself? Because that love is how you're going to love others. You cannot give anyone different capacity of love than you're giving yourself already. This is the true definition of self-love. Most people think what they're doing is self-love. We equate self-love to what truly is self-care. Getting your hair done, getting your nails done, getting a massage, that's self-care. That's not self-love. Self-love is being able to accept your past mistakes, the skin that you're in, your insecurities, your fears, your anxiety, and being able to realize that you want to do better for yourself and you want to make sure you are at full capacity to love another person and you want to do it differently. You want to show up for that person in a way that they are accepted and not rejected. Because when we do it the other way, there's a sense of rejection that comes up. When we decide that we're going to love someone like we love ourselves and we're highly critical of ourselves, we go out and we criticize our husbands, criticize our persons, criticize our friends, we criticize everyone that's around us, and we make them feel rejected by us because this means we're not accepted. We're not accepting where they are. We're not accepting that they make mistakes. We're not accepting they're not perfect. We're not accepting that they have insecurities also. We're not accepting them. And so they feel rejected by us. So when we decide to love someone in a way that we love ourselves, and the way that we love ourselves is unacceptable, those people will feel rejected. This is the reason why you don't see men just falling on their knees and proposing. You don't see women chasing you down asking for mentorship because they want to be accepted. And that's the magical missing piece is acceptance. When you can accept you are abandoned, they left you. It doesn't mean that you're less than. It doesn't mean that you're not loved. It doesn't mean that you can't have love. It just means you had a situation that happened in your past. Now it's time to accept that and not try to do things to let people know that they are rejected. Because when we are leaning into the things that we do to ourselves and we tend to pass that on to other people, they feel rejected and essentially we're rejecting them. So if you're highly critical or you're seeking perfection or you're super insecure or you lack self-confidence, you will love people through that. That is where you're going to love them at. You're going to look at them and you're going to be highly critical of the decisions that they make. You're going to look at them and you're going to, hone in on what they're not self-confident about. You're going to look at them. If you're dealing with trauma, you're going to look at them and you're going to hone in on their trauma and hold it against them. This is something we all do as humans. It's not a woman thing and it's not a man thing. I don't want anyone to think it's just a woman thing. This is what women do. No, this is a human thing. This is human nature. We cannot love someone differently than we love ourselves. Even though we try very hard. We see that we came up under a mother who was, very disappointed in us, and we try not to give that or pass it on to our children. We tend to do it anyway because that's what we're doing. We're making ourselves feel like we're disappointed in ourselves. We're disappointed in every decision we make. We're disappointed in the way we look. We're disappointed in the life that we live. So we tend to pass that disappointment on to our children. We hone in onto the disappointment that we feel for ourselves and we pass it and put it on them. We can't love someone differently than we love ourselves. So if you are this girl, then you need to start focusing in on the thing that's the self-talk that you have, where you're constantly talking down to yourself, where you're constantly criticizing yourself, where you're constantly focusing on all your insecurities because you got a little pudge, you may be a little bit overweight, where you're constantly focusing on the trauma that happened, you were abandoned, it happened. And instead of going around and around and considering yourself a bad person because these things are happening to you, it happened to you, accept it. Acceptance is the key to inspire devotion within men. Acceptance is the key to women wanting to chase you down for mentorship because they're going to see such a confident person that loves herself and is so full of love that they want to know how is it done because they're doing the same thing right now. Right now, they're criticizing themselves and then they're not understanding why they can't help but to criticize the person that they're with, why they can't have a level of satisfaction with the person that they're with, because they're not satisfied with themselves. They're trying to aim for perfection. So they're looking for everyone else to be perfect also. All love is love of self. We only love others like we love ourselves. So we love others and it comes out in different ways. And if you want to inspire devotion among men, you want men to get on one knee and propose to you, then work on getting to acceptance within yourself. That is the magic formula. That's going to bring in proposals. That's going to help him get on one knee because a man will look at it as though if she can accept herself, then she can accept me. If she can look at herself and accept her past mistakes, then she's going to be able to accept mine. If she can look at herself and accept her insecurities, then she can accept mine. If she can look at herself and accept her flaws, then she can accept mine. Men will fall on bended knee for the woman who has acceptance. Women will chase you for mentorship because you have acceptance. But we cannot love anyone differently than we love ourselves. We've tried and failed because I keep seeing the same dynamic happen over and over and over. You all call it like a generational curse. Like I said, every spiritual question has a spiritual answer. And we see this playing out over and over and over. We see the young girl who didn't get enough love, who didn't get enough care and consideration for her mother. So she tends to also do the same thing to her children. And then that child does the same thing to their children. We cannot love differently than we love ourselves. If you're not filling yourself up with compliments, appreciation, love, and consideration and care, we cannot give that to someone else when you're not giving it to yourself first. You love all things as though you love yourself. All love is love of self. And that is the true definition of self-love. Self-love is not just going to get your hair done, not just going for a massage. Self-love is not those things. That's self-care. And there's nothing wrong with it. I love going to get a massage. I love going to get my hair done. I love taking care of myself. But I understand it's self-care. What I need to focus in on is making sure that I change that negative talk that I have. I have to stop talking to myself as though I'm worth less than nothing. I have to start talking to myself as though I love me. So I have to tell myself that I am loved. I have to tell myself that I love all of my imperfections. I have to tell myself that I love my heart. I love how I deal with people. I have to tell myself I love that I've made mistakes. I love my flaws. I love the skin that I am in. I have to constantly give myself that type of love all the time so I can give that to others. I wouldn't be able to give that to other people unless I give it to myself first. You first. You give that love to yourself first. And then it's going to be easier for you to give it to others. And then when others see that you're able to give yourself love, people will come running with their hands out. They'll come running trying to figure out what are you doing differently because they want to love themselves too. They just want a little bit of the love that you're giving yourself so they can experience it. We live in a world where most people are operating from their insecurity, their fear, their trauma, their ego. They're operating from all these things and not from love in the first place. So if they come across a woman who she has acceptance within her, then they know that they can receive acceptance from her. Hey, Joy. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the comment section if you have any questions. And so we can have a real conversation about this, but it is highly important. You love others like you love yourself. And if all you do is spend time talking badly about yourself, all you do is spend time criticizing yourself, all you do is just laying into yourself for all your mistakes and flaws, this is how you're going to be able to love others. This is how it's going to come out. It just comes out in different ways. It's going to come out where you're just criticizing him about how he does things. You're criticizing him about how he is. You're criticizing him about how he does and operates and shows up in the world. Or you're laying into his imperfections and flaws because you lay into your own imperfections. You point out all the things you feel is wrong with you, and you're going to lay into him also in the same manner. Even when it comes to your fears, let's say you're operating from fear, you will love God through fear. And instead of him being, beside you, in you, around you, you will always operate from a place of fear instead of taking the dominion and command that he gave you on this physical plane. Everything will be of fear and not of joy, of health and happiness and love. So we cannot love anyone differently than we love ourselves. It all comes back to all love is love of self. You will love your children in that same manner. That's the reason why if you're having issues loving yourself now, it is best that you do the work so that when you have kids, you'll know what to do. I'm not saying you're going to do a perfect job because I'm going to tell you this, things will still pop up and you will have to address them. And only thing your job is to get back to appreciation, get back to acceptance, get back to acceptance within self so that you can love through the lens of acceptance. When you're able to do that, you will have people running after you to be near you, to be mentored by you. You will have men fall down and propose to you because this is not normal. Most people are operating from the love that they don't give themselves. They're operating from the lack of love that they have for themselves. They're operating from the insecurity that they have for themselves. They're operating from the trauma they haven't made peace with within themselves. They're operating from the love that they love themselves. You cannot love anyone differently than you love yourself. It just comes out in different ways. And what we need to do is start to address those ways, become self aware, and do the inner work. The inner work is required for you to come to a place where you accept. I'm not saying that you forget. You don't have to forget. I think all of the experiences that you have are beautiful. I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget when I lost my cousin with the car accident. I don't want to forget that. I don't want to forget the growth that I experienced with my husband to become a woman that I am. I don't want to forget having my first-born child and how it spurred me to become a better woman. I don't want to forget these experiences. I just want to accept them and realize this is my past and I want to be open to my present. And this is what I want you to do also, because I want you to get to a place of acceptance. I want you to be able to look in the mirror and accept what you look like, accept the beauty that's in front of you, accept the love that you have for yourself. Allow yourself to love yourself. Allow yourself to be loved. Because sometimes if we can't love ourselves, we don't allow other people to love ourselves. We don't allow other people to fall in love with us. We do everything we can and push them away because we don't feel that we deserve enough love because of something that happened to us or some type of story that we have running in the background. You must learn to love yourself. And it starts at acceptance. Once you get there, you will have men propose to you by the dozen, by the true, I don't even know. It depends on how many men you run into that you allow yourself to be able to get connected to. You will find that they will love you. They will want to be more around you because they already walk out into the world and they have to deal with the imperfection and flaws of themselves. They already know that they have these things going on, but they know that they can come home to someone who accept them. You know how powerful acceptance is, how powerful it is to be in around someone that's in true acceptance, someone who is not trying to, change them based off their fears or trying to make them something they're not based off their insecurities or hold on to them based off their fear. But you won't hold on to a man because out of fear when you truly are acceptance of yourself and you love yourself. You will let a man go when you realize that he is not the person for you. But a lot of women will hold on to a man out of fear. I fear that they can't make it without him. Fear that they won't find another man. Miss Right Time says, makes me think of the Carpenter song, Why Do Birds Suddenly Appear Every Time You Are Near? Karen Carpenter. Absolutely. The timing of this is so perfect. I've been asking myself why I was so critical of my partner, wanting him to act proper till I realized it's because I'm not accepting every aspect of myself. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Because when we operate from that criticism, it's hard for us to accept that the way that someone is solving a problem, even if they're solving it. I want you to think about, like, if you watch a lot of my live streams, some women, I'll tell them, hey, give him the problem and let him solve it. And they'll come back and say, he solved it, Braille, but I didn't like the way he solved it. That is because you're very critical of how you take care of things in your own world. You're very critical of how you solve your own issues. We tend to pass the buck on to other people. We can't love anyone differently than we love ourselves. So she's not going to be able to accept the way that he solved it because of the criticism that she has when she goes out here and try to solve things. It is a toxic system that keeps happening over and over and over when we're not aware. We can't love anyone differently than we love ourselves. And that goes over on to God too. Like, if you actually look at how people operate when it comes to God, they do not come to God in a way of power. They come to God in a way of fear. That's because within themselves, they operate out of fear. They love them. They love through fear. That is the way they love. And since you can't love anyone different than yourself, when they come to God, instead of them operating from the space that everything that God gave us on the physical realm, we have dominion over it, they operate from a space of fear. And they hold themselves back, literally, from being able to take control of their life. They just pass the buck because that's how they love themselves. That's how they treat themselves. That's how they deal with themselves. So they deal with God in the same manner. They deal with their children in the same manner. They deal with their persons in the same manner. That's why inner work is the key. But of course, I gave you the secret sauce. It is acceptance. When a man comes across a woman and she accepts herself, this is a beautiful thing because they're used to women loving through their own fears or insecurities or doubts or trauma. That is how she loves because she can't love him differently than she loves herself. So if she's she has problem or she has self-confidence issues, she's going to pass that on to him. She's going to probably hone in on how he does things. And she's going to shake his self-confidence. She's going to pass on how he thinks about things. And she's going to shake his self-confidence. He's been doing things all this time without you. But since you don't trust in your own self-confidence and how you move and how you make decisions, you still tend to pass the buck and you love him through that. That's how you love. So he's getting that love. You love him. I'm not saying you don't love that person. I'm saying we can't do love any differently than we do it for ourselves first. So if you're doing love for yourself in that manner, where you're you lack self-confidence, you're going to pass the buck on to him, and you're going to hone into something, and you're going to make him feel less self-confident about decisions that he's making, or the business that he's in, or the career that he has. And he's gonna be like, oh my God, being with her, I have become less self-confident in myself. Before I met her, I was doing well, making great decisions for myself and my business. I was doing well and moving up in the world. But then I met her, and since her love for herself is full of self-doubt, full of lack of self-confidence, she's passing it on to me. She can't do any different for me than she's doing for herself, even though I see every woman's trying hard. I'm not saying you're not trying. I see a lot of trying all over the social media. But I think we need to really know that all love is love of self. It starts with us first. That is how you're going to love anybody that comes in your life, into your world. And I think it's highly important that we understand what's happening before we have kids. Because just imagine you critical of the things that you're doing, and then you have to raise a kid, and you Instead of you loving them, you love them. And this is the form of love that you have to offer them. But you're still criticizing them. You're still creating a kid that's very stagnant and not independent and very doubtful of their own skills because of your criticism. Daisy, ooh, let me make sure I like the video. This is gold. Thank you. Make sure everyone likes the video. Okay? You cannot love anyone differently than you love yourself. All love is love of self. It goes back to self. When we fall in love, we will treat them as though they are us. And since we treat them as though they are us, if we're dealing with doubt, we're going to put doubt on them. We're going to trigger doubt in them. We're going to inspire doubt in them instead of devotion. If we're dealing with insecurity and we feel like we're not small enough, we feel like that we're not good enough, we feel like we don't deserve anything, you're going to trigger that in the person that you love the most. You're going to trigger that within him, and he's going to start to think that maybe he isn't good enough, or maybe that he doesn't deserve something, or maybe that he is not going to have it or doesn't deserve it because he hasn't done something or completed something. It depends on how we're loving ourselves. How you're loving yourself is going to determine how you love others. You can't love anyone differently than you love yourself. All things come out in the wash. It may not come out exactly how you're loving yourself, but it will come out anyway, where you're going to see the results of it with the people that you love. I'm not saying that you don't love them. I'm saying that you're doing the best that you can, but your best isn't good enough. You can do better. You can love people to the level where they feel accepted and not rejected. They feel like being around you, they can just be. They can be themselves with imperfections and flaws and all. They don't have to put on a facade. They don't have to put on a mask. They don't have to pretend. They can just be themselves. That's the most freeing thing you can do for a person. Men will propose to you and women will chase you down for mentorship. So, how are you loving? For those of you who love journal prompts, how am I loving? How am I loving? And I want you to think about, how do I talk to myself? Am I full of negative self-talk? Do I always talk down to myself? Do I always criticize myself? Do I always tell myself that I'm done for making that mistake? Do I always think about my past and just tell myself that I don't deserve things because it didn't go right last time? It didn't work last time, so I must not qualify for it this time. So I want you to think, how do I love myself? And addressing that journal prompt and how you love yourself will help you to become self-aware so that you can get to a point of acceptance within self. And then you will begin to love people through acceptance. And it's loving people through acceptance. It doesn't mean, since you love people through acceptance, that you have to accept everything. Okay. It doesn't mean that you're open for mistreatment or disrespect. It doesn't mean that you're open to abuse. It just means that you can accept for what it is and not for what it isn't. And you can operate for what it is and deal with it in face value versus it being behind all of the fear and insecurity and self-doubt that you have and the trauma that you have. Instead of reading all those situations through those powerful emotions and situations and experiences, now you're going to look at it through acceptance. And it's easier for you to let somebody go when you realize, okay, yes, I'm giving this person, I'm showing them acceptance, I'm loving them through acceptance, but they can't accept themselves because just it goes both ways. Yes, you can be the person that shows up and you can love them through acceptance, but then they can't accept you and they don't realize that you're real. Like I've had that situation happen where men didn't think I was real because he hadn't seen or come across a woman who was in acceptance. He was used to women operating from fear of losing him, fear that he's dating other women, fear that he isn't what he says he is. So this woman's operating on fear or abandonment. So she gets very needy and clingy. And I'm not doing that. I'm just showing up in acceptance and accepting myself and accepting you. And sometimes that mirror that you hold up to them in acceptance, they run away because they can't accept it. That isn't your person. When you come across the right person, the right guy that's going to inspire, you're going to be able to inspire devotion in. When you hold that mirror up, he's going to be grateful. He's going to be grateful for the woman that you are, because there's so many women that's operating and loving others through their own, the way that they love themselves. And since they don't love themselves very well, they're loving others in that same manner. So when he sees that mirror of acceptance and it's staring him back in the face, and he realizes I can be myself, I don't have to be anything but myself. I can have flaws. I can be imperfect. I can get things wrong sometimes. And this woman is still going to have acceptance for me. He will propose to you. Women want to be mentored by you. So the chat is open. That is all that I have today. I did drop in the chat my Evolve Pedestal Wife program. It talks about self love. It helps you to get on the path to acceptance, because that is going to be the magic key. That's going to be the key to getting the men to fall on and propose to you. Because guess what? No one's perfect. No one's perfect. So if you're searching for this perfect person, even though you're imperfect, he's imperfect, this is going to be the issue. Because if we operate from the way that we love ourselves is through perfection. We have to be perfect. We have to have a perfect look. We have to go to the perfect places. We have to be perfect. We can never do anything wrong. What do you think? How do you think you're going to love someone? You're going to love someone through that lens of trying to be imperfect. So every time they do something, it's not going to be good enough. Every time that they show up for you, it's not going to be good enough. Every time that they try to love you, it's just not going to be good enough, because that's the way you love yourself. You're so hard on yourself. You want to be perfect. You have to have everything in perfection. Everything has to be right. And so you're not going to be accept anything else but that. So how do you love yourself? Are you loving yourself in a way of acceptance? Are you loving yourself and accepting every flaw, every imperfection, all of your past? Are you loving yourself so that you can hold that mirror up of acceptance? And then when he sees that mirror of acceptance, he will fall on one knee and propose to you, because that is rare. And especially in the time of social media, where every day I come on social media, I swear there's another thing added to the list of what women should be looking at. Another thing added to the list of making sure that man stays, that man never abandons you, that man provides and protects. When honestly, it's very simple for men to want to do that. If you want to inspire devotion, not where he's worshiping you, but devotion, because he will not find acceptance anywhere. You're that rare woman. You're that rare woman that has acceptance. Most women are operating from their trauma, abandonment, fear, doubt, and they're loving people through that. That is how they love them. They're loving them and putting their doubt on them. And so they're triggering doubt in that person. They're triggering self-confidence issues in that person. How do you love? Acceptance is the key to devotion, because it is rare. You explain things so well. Thank you. I want to make sure this is a simple concept. I didn't want to complicate it. I'm doing my best to not too complicate it and not overwhelm everyone with the entire work that's required. I want you to have hone into something very simple that you can do today, and you can focus in on trying to accept yourself, because that is how you're going to love. You're going to love people through acceptance, and loving someone through acceptance is going to bring them closer to you, because most people are used to being judged. Like if you anything you put on social media, you get judged. Most people and people judge harshly. I run an Instagram page, it's different than all of my social media platforms. And the judgment that I see in these comments, the a lack of awareness that I see in those comments sometimes is very triggering. That I already can recognize that some people are loving people through this heavy judgment. Like you judge yourself so bad that you can't even accept that you made a mistake. You judge yourself so bad that you can't even accept that you're imperfect. You judge yourself so bad that when you look at other people's, you're judging them before you even get to know them. This is how you love. You can't love anyone differently than you love yourself. So if you're super judgmental towards yourself, you can be super judgmental to your partner. You can be super judgmental to the people that you love. And this right here can be hard to deal with because judgment is already heavy. You already go out into the world and you go with judgment. When you walk outside, people are judging you. They judge you for what you're buying, where you're at, how you talk, how you look like. But then when you're at home, you don't have to feel that judgment. You want to feel acceptance. You want your kids to come to you and feel that they're accepted. They don't want to feel like they're heavily judged. You want your person, your husband, to come to you as though you accept him. He doesn't want to have to, like, I can't tell her anything because she's going to judge badly. She's going to think badly of me. If you can accept yourself, this is where you will begin to accept others. And this is where you will love people through that acceptance. And loving people through that acceptance means that you will be able to, they will be able to come to you and they will feel seen. And feeling seen is powerful just by itself. Being in acceptance and feeling seen and feeling understand and understood, these are so powerful that every knee will bend. Men will bend. They will go quickly to go to the jewelry and to the place and buy your ring. Like there are gonna be so many offers for your hand, and it doesn't mean that you have to accept them all. Remember, it doesn't mean that you get to accept bad behavior either. It just means that it gives you a sense of acceptance so that you can truly love someone where they are. And loving someone where they are is powerful in itself. So, how do you love? So, that is a journal prompt that you can sit down and think about. How do I love? And I want you to clarify, how do I love others? So, you can look at where it's coming out. You can look at what's happening. Being super critical helped me grow and improve so much, but I do see that loving others that way is not well received. I saw it as tough love, but others receive it as judgment and not liking them. Absolutely. And I get where you're coming from because when you're super critical of yourself, it can become a habit. It actually spurs you into making changes within yourself. But the thing is, you're going to start to love other people in the same way that you love yourself. So if you're super critical of the decisions that you make, you're going to hyper focus in on decisions that other people make, and you're going to want to let them know what bad decisions they're making. And this is going to be a form of rejection. You're rejecting people. Pretty much you're repelling people. And see, that is not healthy. And that is not the way that we want to love ourselves or love others. Instead of being super critical, come from it as I appreciate. I appreciate the decision I made or the behavior that I displayed. So now I have an opportunity to do it better next time. Instead of looking at it as, oh, if I would have done this, this wouldn't have happened and I would never had to experience that. Stop being super critical because it does come out. It comes out, everything comes out in the wash. And since we don't want to love others in a critical way, because this not only goes, it doesn't just, we don't just do this to the person that we're with. We do this to any children that we have also. That's the reason why it's such an important conversation. I'm trying to make sure that I simplify it and not complicate it. But that judgment is rejection. As soon as you come up to me and you're like, oh my gosh, you did that wrong. Why didn't you just do it this way? Why couldn't you just make the decision this way? Why did you do this? That's bad behavior. If you come up to me, it's rejection immediately. And we don't realize how we're rejecting people. They don't even get an opportunity to get close to us for them to even get to know us on a deeper level. Because we can't love anyone differently than we love ourselves. It's going to come out. So instead of being super critical, just be in acceptance of that situation or whatever you did and think, well, I can do it differently next time. There's another opportunity for me to make it better. This way you can still improve, and you don't want, because you don't want to lose your ability to improve your life, but you don't want to go about it in a way that's critical, because that's not treating yourself well. Start treating yourself well. Start pouring into yourself in a positive manner. The more that you pour yourself into yourself in a positive manner, the more that you get to the state of acceptance of yourself, the more that you will be able to feel to love through acceptance. And then other people will see that you're doing things differently, and it's different than what they're used to, and they'll want more of it. Women will chase you down to want to know what you're doing, and men will propose if you're open to marriage. Because when men go out into the world, they're used to being criticized. They're used to people complaining. They're used to doubt. They're used to all the things that, in a way, that women normally love themselves. They're used to that. So you being a person who is in a state of acceptance, and you view him through that state, he knows that he can be truly loved, and he will be inspired and be devoted to you. So this, a woman must love herself. A man must love her better than himself. All right. So if there aren't any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and leave off on there. My Evolve Pedestal Wife link is in the chat. If you're ready to go ahead and get on this journey of self-love, are you ready to start changing the way that you speak to yourself? Are you ready to start changing how you treat yourself? Because treating yourself and how you speak to yourself is how you're going to love others. You can't love anyone better than yourself. That is not the way it works. You're going to use the same ways that you love yourself. You're going to use it to love a man, your children, and the people that you call family. So you want to be doing the best job that you can for yourself. And I'm not saying in the beginning you may make mistakes, you may slip up, because you're human. You're not perfect. We're not trying to aim for perfection. There's no such thing. But you will get up and be able to reframe your thinking, and to being able to have another opportunity. You can have another opportunity to correct that mistake or do it differently next time. You don't have to criticize yourself. You can accept your imperfection and flaws. You can accept the body that you're in, the way that you look, the way that you talk, your past, and where you're coming from. And you can accept your present. Your present. All right. So I know there's a lag, so I'll always give you all some time before I actually officially close out. But I thank you, Pedestal Wives and Inner Circle members, for being here all the way to the end. And I will see you all in the next one. You all have a wonderful day. See you on the next one.